Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you are listening to the show, and welcome to Legends Rise, an Elder Scrolls Online podcast, where we educate players new and old about the game itself, whether it's how to run dungeons, discussing combat, chatting about crafting, posing information about PvP, gabbing about guilds, babbling about builds, and so much more. I'm your host, Marcus Axford, and with me today is my co-host, the beautiful and lovely Queen of Cyrodiil herself, Lainy Kirkpatrick. How are you doing today, Lainy?
I'm doing good, Marcus. I'm excited for what we're doing.
And so is your fan, apparently.
Jesus, I know.
We also have a special guest with us this episode, Venus Fallen. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Definitely happy to be here. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do. I believe we are talking about the High Isle preview stream that just happened today. Or yesterday, whenever you're listening to this, I don't know. Time is weird. And maybe this recording for YouTube will be a little better than the last one, as I appear to have screwed up the volumes, and hopefully it got fixed. We had other problems, though, before, so we took like 2-3 hours. Well, okay, not 3 hours, but definitely a couple hours to get ourselves ready for this. So I hope everyone's ready for a very stimulating conversation about this preview. By the way, if anybody's watching YouTube and you notice movement in the background, that would be the dogs. You might have also caught them on the last video as well. So, all right, is everybody ready?
We're ready.
Yay!
Yeah, let's
Excellent.
get to it.
Excellent. But before we get into it, we want to remind you that Legends Rise is part of the Pop Culture FM network, and if you want to join our amazing community, you can come join our Discord, and links for that are on our Twitter or Facebook at Legends Rise ESO, where you can find a section for ESO players as well as some other cool stuff, including our group hug channel for if you're having a bad time, because mental health is important to us. Also, don't forget to rate and review this show on whatever platform you're using to give us your feedback and let us know how we are doing. Also, we have an Instagram where we post pics of our adventures. Not yet, spoiler alert. But we got a new follower today, so I was happy about that. Makes me feel obligated to actually get on that and post more. You can find that at Legends Rise ESO as well. And we are now on YouTube, so if you're listening on podcast platforms, I'm working on getting the links up for it in our descriptions. You can find the link to our YouTube on our Twitter or Facebook pages that's grouped up with the Discord as well. I'm also working on getting the links to our Discord in the YouTube description, so you'll end up seeing the link for our Discord there. Finally, if you love listening to us here and you want more, you can go to patreon.com/legendsriseeso, and for $5 a month, you can get this show ad-free, you can get a shout-out on the show, you can message in with your comments and questions, and have access to other cool stuff like exclusive merch, early access to bonus episodes, and exclusive Discord roles to access game updates, weekly events, and more. We are always looking to add more content to make your dollar worth it. One final thing I want to talk about, and I'm going to warn everyone right now, this might be a little triggering if you've lost a loved one, especially a parent, but I wanted to let everyone know our hearts go out to one of our longtime members in our Discord, Mocha Thought 868. She just lost her mother. I know what that's like because I lost mine 3 years ago, and honestly, my mom is the very reason I'm sitting here talking to you guys. Not because of the obvious reasons, but because she drove me to do what I was passionate about, even if that passion changed a dozen times in a year. Mocha, you've always been good to me, so I wanted to return the favor. Hopefully without choking up, because it's also a very sensitive subject for me as well. If you guys are in our Discord out there, or if you join our Discord, please go to our group hug channel and let her know you're thinking of her. I know you guys hear it at the beginning of each episode, but if you're experiencing trauma or grief, please seek help. Use our BetterHelp code at betterhelp.com/popculturefm, or even seek local therapy. Even if you don't want to use our code, we just want to know you are getting the help you need. I actually recently started using BetterHelp myself, and honestly, it's such a different experience than I thought it would be. I actually really recommend therapy. So, and lastly, I just want to give a general shout out to all of our fans. it's good to see the numbers picking back up again and hearing all of you listening in, and happy that we're here. I love our community so much. You all make it worth it. And with all that out of the way, let's get into it before I start crying.
Aw.
Oh, I know. I was there a couple times. It's between just that subject and just like I'm feeling a lot of overwhelming love right now. I'm tracking the numbers. I'm seeing everybody get back in, and I love you guys. Lainy, thank you for doing this with me, for putting up with me. Venus, good to have you here. Who knows? We'll probably see you around more. So I just wanted to express my gratitude to everybody listening. So, with all that now, let's get into it. So, today, as of recording, they did the Bethesda stream for the High Isle preview. We got to see a little bit more of where we're going, what we're doing. Obviously, they talked about Tales of Tribute. They talked about the companions and some other stuff that we didn't get to see from the global event. Again, this is a little lackluster compared to what we are used to for content pretty much every year since Morrowind dropped. I mean, we've had a lot of consistent, like, bulk content ever since Morrowind. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that they're finally at a point where they're like, hey, guys, we still want to give you content, but we gotta do other stuff. So it's not going to be as great this year as you're used to. But I don't know. Looking at the landscape, like, the fact that maybe there's not more in terms of, like, no new class, no new skill lines. I know people, well, Lainy, you were saying that the Tales of Tribute's not enough, and I totally understand that, even though I also understand that something like that has balancing issues on its own that they've been working on. But I just think High Isle's pretty. It's a very from the looks of it, it's a very diverse chapter in terms of biomes. So I'm really excited.
It is, and I love that, since it's so close to Somerset, you still have a bit of the Somerset biome still in there. And then, of course, you have Australia.
Yes, you do, complete with spiders.
Right. Who doesn't love spiders?
Venus just no.
Listen, some of us have arachnophobia, and some of us have seen desert spiders the size of a shoe. I would rather not again.
Oh
I
God.
live in the desert.
I actually just picked up a new account, and she was talking to me, and I'm like, I don't mean to be rude or anything, but is that an accent I'm hearing? She's like, yes, I'm Australian, and I'm like, oh, so are the rumors true? And she's like, oh yeah, you don't go inland at all. So, but Venus, what did you think of this preview?
So I think it's got a lot of good elements, and hopefully a lot of background stuff that we're not seeing, right? So obviously the landscape is beautiful, and I don't think ZeniMax has ever let us down in that regard. But we're getting a story that is a little bit pulled back from the world-ending tragedies that we've gotten in the past couple chapters, which, given their focus on game performance and the longevity of the game on as its back end, I think this is a great opportunity to give them the time to do that. And it brings really ESO back towards its roots as far as its storytelling is concerned.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, Arthurian legend can be bland, but I'm hoping that ZeniMax has some surprises in store for us in terms of story. I mean, honestly, I don't doubt it's going to be a great story. They've always seemed to even make the most mundane side quests be just like, oh, really care about this. I mean, Lainy, when we talked about what's her face in Stone Falls who killed herself. Like, it's just a little thing. It's just a tiny little detail, but it's like, oh, you dark, Zos, oh my god.
Right, and there's a couple other like side quests just like that, and you have these other side quests where you really get to know these characters, and then but that's it. You don't see them again.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the order in which they did the main show in. I had notes actually written down because I was at work when I got to watch this, and unfortunately I left them at the office. So, um, uh, pardon the disorganization. Try our best to try to do this in the order that they presented it. So, uh, I believe the first things they kind of talked about were some of the returning characters we're going to see. We already see Yakarn. He showed up for me in front of Mournhold. I saw. I'm trying to play catch up on some of my other content. I haven't even played Blackwood yet, so I really need to get my button gear for that. But we have Yakarn. We have what's the name of the tiny little Khajiit captain?
Zaji.
Yes. From Elsewhere. So I liked him. I know I completed Elsewhere campaign. Um, and I think they said one other one.
There's actually two more. So, in the new dungeons that came out, Coral Airy features both Captain Colleen and Jakarn. You remember Captain Colleen from like the starter Daggerfall Covenant quests. And I'm actually interested because I know we've talked about this before, Marcus. There's
Yes.
a certain decision in those quests where either she likes you or she doesn't. And then
Y-
the other character is Casca, who is also from the Southern Elsewhere quest line, who is basically Zaji's adopted mom.
isn't she the big burly bulldog looking
Yeah,
Khajiit?
she's the Sentrat.
Yeah. Okay. I will say that starting today, we do have access to the free prologue quest. So, go out and see how our adventure starts. Because I know that dungeon quests, as fantastical as they can be kind of hard to follow. So, especially if you're running with random people that just don't care. I do know that there are like lore groups that actually slow down and pay attention to what's going on in the dungeon, right down to the littlest details, to obviously admire the dungeons that these guys work so hard on, and also to keep up with what's going on in the story.
And obviously, I would know absolutely nothing about groups like that.
Oh no, not at all.
No, no.
Actually, I should mention the connection that you and why Venus is here.
Oh, yeah, you should.
Yeah. Hey, what I say about part of the disorganization? Hey Venus, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? We're gonna take
Yeah, sure.
this quick sponsor break while I drink my coffee.
Yeah, sure. So I am a beta player for ESO on PC. I also played at launch on Xbox as well for a time. I've been playing this game on and off for 8 years. I am primarily a PvP player. That's pretty much where I live inside of Cyrodiil. I only do PvE for pledges or to get, mythics or monster sets and whatnot. So I'm not any sort of end game PvE player. I enjoy the storyline of the game for sure, but my focus is a lot on mechanics and just finding good fights in the game in the PvP space, whether that's Battleground, Cyrodiil. I don't have a faction that I subscribe to any loyalty to. I play all the factions and I have characters on all of them.
All I'm gonna say that is for Skyrim, not even Ebonheart. The Nords don't even care about the Ebonheart pack. It's all about Skyrim.
Oh yeah, 100%. You're not wrong about that though.
No, he's not.
So moving on. Great to have you here.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you tell that we were ready to go 2 hours ago and then just kind of lost our footing?
Yeah, but if we didn't have tech issues, we never would have seen Vetus's, Zero Face.
Yeah, just like he had a stroke and he just like.
Listen, listen. It takes some concentration to fight a group of 10 players at one time, which I should clarify. In the PvP space, I am probably spend most of my time doing 1vx stuff, tower humping, just being solo, trying to fight big groups by myself.
Or you come save my little baby tune.
Yes, there is that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll see Venus more slash hear him more when we start getting into PvP stuff, which we are working very hard on. I probably should have mentioned that we're working really hard to make sure we get as many of the either mundane or like important need to know things before we like jump into combat and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I'm your PvP consultant.
I like that because
Have I been fired?
No, it's nice to have you guys picking up my slack because I'm very much, into the, questing, the dungeons, the trials, not so much because as we talked about before recording, that's a lot to take in. Especially for someone like me who has like social anxiety and stuff. Oh, cool. I, as a tank, get to manage like 12 people. Cool. Yes, I know I have help, but that's beside the point. So speaking of,
I'm just
no,
I'm just gonna go take off my Zero crown and put it on Venus's head since he stole
Listen,
it.
I'll be the Queen of Cyrodiil. Don't you tempt me, and I'll be pretty while I do it.
Yes, yes, Queen.
Venus might actually be prettier than me, so that would kind of work.
Speaking of beside the point, now back from our commercial break. So I know one of the new things they talked about was new factions to discover, and I'm really interested in this because this plays into the Arthurian legend thing. We are getting 3 Knight Orders, and I can't remember because I might not have been paying attention what each of them is. Actually, I was actually trying.
They didn't say.
Okay. So we'll be then discovering that for ourselves. But I will point out a very missed opportunity here. And yes, I understand that while they're trying to do all the back end stuff and trying to get all of that stuff up to par for now, so putting in something new to have to balance is just not a good idea. I still think there was a missed opportunity here to do a knight specific skill line. And hear me out. There's 3 orders. So you, instead of your skills morphing into between 2, you could morph them between 3, and that would be a unique skill line for that. I get it, balancing issues and all that, but we haven't had a new skill line, a new combat skill line since Somerset. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct. Sijic Order was the last added combat skill line.
Yeah, and we haven't had a new class since the year after that with Elsewhere. So, combat-wise, we've been kind of lacking for new fun things to do. Like, don't get me wrong, all the new sets that we always get are cool and all that stuff, but I just feel like we're kind of starved for new things to, especially since they, I really hate to say it, but they butchered the vampire.
I'll totally agree with you that all day. Like,
it's good if you're actually geared to be a vampire and do the ult and stuff like that. But I miss being able to just throw it on my tank. And I could technically throw it on now and just try to maintain that phase 3 hunger, bloodlust, whatever.
No, don't use that. You gotta use stage 4.
No, because stage 4 I get 0 health recovery.
Don't you dare
don't
listen to her with stage 4.
Hey,
Oh my
I
God.
run stage 4 all the time.
How many times do you die?
Not very often. I'm a Nightblade.
What happened to your stage 4 when you wanted to join my ball group?
Maybe drop it.
That's right.
Yeah, stage 3, okay. I'm curious to try it out as a tank because I still kind of miss that undeath, which is where you get it, is at stage 3, which is kind of nice.
Yes, stage 3.
So I've been kind of curious to maybe try that again, but for the most part, we have been lacking for combat strategies lately.
Yeah, just to comment on the vampire real quick. I actually like the changes they made to it, and the reason being it is no longer a have to slot. It is now situational, and that just opens up options.
I will agree with you on that because just like the old champion system, yeah, I loved having those passives and those buffs and all that, but at the end of the day, if you just let an MMO keep these things, it's gonna get stale. Yes, you can hate changes all you want, but at the end of the day, we have to have them. Otherwise, the game gets old, and then you're just complaining about the game being old and stale. So you're kind of sort of bitching one way or another.
But I'll 100% agree with you. We are kind of starved for combat, specifically mechanical combat centric changes. I think with the introduction of the mythic items, I think they're leaning too much on the mythic items to change the way combat is played versus making actual meaningful changes to the game.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. And every new chapter we get even more mythic items. Like some of the ones that you were showing me today, Venus, like the one that's going to benefit werewolves. That's only going to really benefit werewolves.
Yeah, it's if anybody doesn't know, the embargo lifted today on the new content that the group of players like Deltia and a couple other of the content creators were able to play very early, which means different sites now have these items posted. One of which Lainy is referring to, is an item that restricts your ability to swap to your back bar,
Oh,
but it gives
yeah.
you a bunch of bonuses for being locked on one bar, which would
Mm-hmm.
benefit Werewolf. It will also benefit a lot of solo PvEers who enjoy those one bar builds.
Um,
That's true.
I would say when I saw that, I immediately thought of, yes, werewolf, but I also thought of the one bar Sork build,
Yeah,
which
yeah, the
Yeah.
one bar builds,
also
as long
could
as
benefit from being a werewolf.
Yeah.
hundred
And
percent.
I think in place to this ring, what they really should have done is fix werewolf. The horror.
What's wrong with werewolf?
I mean, I think Werewolf was fine.
I do
I
too.
mean, I think the biggest complaint, and I think I've mostly heard it from Quintus Venus, is that werewolf doesn't have an ultimate. The ultimate turns you into werewolf, whereas vampire
Oh,
is all these like passives that you don't have to turn to a vampire
but
to be at.
the problem is, as we just talked about the vampire, is it got like nerfed to holy hell.
It
There's
Yeah, I
is.
mean, I will never forgive them for getting rid of my vampire passive that increased my regens by 10%.
yep.
Um,
That hurt me. Oh,
it hurt everyone. But I mean, if you remember, the vampire was changed during the time when they were scaling regens back. Now, of course, the year after, they brought regens back up to where they were pre nerf, but that was part of it. Vampire kind of was just caught in the flack for that. But as far as
Mhm.
werewolf is concerned, yeah, the ultimate turns you into the wolf, but the benefits from that is what you gain from being the wolf.
Right.
yeah, including giving everybody more weapon and spell damage. It's Yolna. Like it's passively Yolna. So if you really
Mm-hmm.
want to do something really weird, be a werewolf tank. It's possible
It is.
with God, what's that one set? Tormentor? No, is it Tormentors?
I believe it's Tormentors and Eternal Vigor,
Okay,
or Eternal Hunt, or
yeah,
one of the two.
yeah. Where when you use a leap, you taunt, and werewolves use leap ability, so you can taunt the boss, and you can buff everybody, and you can apply all these debuffs. I tried it for a little bit and it was fun, but it's definitely, even for I've been playing a tank for 3 years. It's definitely a really high skill to master.
Oh, yeah, it is, because your werewolf tank build kind of relies on you and being in werewolf form.
Yeah, it
So you gotta
does.
get that ultimate up really fast and stay in that ultimate for as long as you can.
True. I mean, now luckily we have potions for that.
Yeah.
Right there are the potions that will harm you but up your
Mm-hmm.
ultimate gain, stuff like that. And there's
Right.
also sets like wow, I'm blanking on the set. Can't remember the name of the set that when you're in combat you have minor heroism at all times.
Oh, is it Drake's Rush?
No, it's not Drake's
No, that
Rush.
you have minor hair. Oh, minor hair
Shocks.
was.
There it is.
Yes, yes.
Shocks, right.
Shocks.
Okay.
There also is the pack leader Morpho Werewolf that, those two direwolves you get can really extend that time.
I think werewolf's issue, if we're being honest here, isn't necessarily the wolf itself. It's that you have very low team utility.
That's true.
Right.
In a
Yeah.
team environment, you're better off just not being a wolf. Unless you're the tank, then fair.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna have different factions. Again, this is gonna be more political intrigue than another world-ending event. which again, in and of itself, I'm also kind of okay with because I'm almost starting to feel world-ending fatigue. Like,
Oh, I love it. I'm not tired of it. I want more of that.
See,
uh,
I'm really looking forward to the political intrigue because we're exploring a faction that has never been explored.
yes, and they are were. I think this is a good way to show that Bretons are interesting because I didn't know. I've played Elder Scrolls games for a long time, many years. I played this for 6 years. I did not know that Bretons are technically half elves.
You didn't?
No, you learn something new every day. So it's like,
I
Yeah,
quit.
oh, so
that's why.
they actually are. And then when you, oh god, I can't remember. One of our caster friends talked about it, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which one. But they talked about the hit. Maybe it was Snug Podcast. They were talking about the history of the Bretons, and it's graphic. It's
It's not
super.
great.
It is.
It's
The Bretons actually have very interesting lore. I think in ESO they haven't done as good of a job as making them as interesting as their lore entails, but they do have fascinating lore behind them.
I mean,
They do.
they were essentially, and I apologize if this is triggering to anybody, but they were essentially sex slaves. The Dureni used them as sport, as mating sport, and it's like, I'm sorry, what am I reading again?
The Bretons are the Twi'leks of Star Wars.
Oh no.
It's kind of accurate actually, and I mean even now, mind you, the Altmer don't like anybody, but the Altmer slur for the Bretons was Manmer, half elf.
Yeah.
Oh. Oof.
And they didn't the Altmer didn't even like to think of the Bosmer as actual elves, but they put the Manmer term as beneath the Bosmer. They saw the Bosmer are barbarians and they shouldn't be elves, but at least they saw that they were elves.
Yeah.
The Bretons, no. It was like kind of like in Harry Potter, like Mudblood. That was basically what the Altmer were calling the Bretons.
Right, right. So I'm really interested to see if we not only get the political intrigue within the Breton society, but if we start to explore like how like high elves and other factions treat this thing. If we actually get them actually talking about their past and stuff like that, we're not just reading about it. They're actually speaking, going, "Yeah, our race was very much oppressed back, long time ago, and this is why." So, right, from what I understand, now you have the political intrigue is basically you have the noble Bretons versus the lower class, and the lower class are being oppressed. And of course, we have what's that prison place called?
Australia.
Okay, Australia. We'll go with Australia. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of when I saw them tie their hands tied behind their backs and in a line? It kind of reminded me like a scene from Fable 1. I immediately felt that. I'm like, okay, that's actually kind of cool because it kind of brings me back a little nostalgia. But I don't think we've really seen. I'm trying to think if we've actually seen a prison like this before in the game. That wasn't.
We really haven't.
That wasn't
This
danger
is
related. So,
Yeah, I mean, the writers kind of shoveled off all of those kind of concepts onto the Daedra.
yes.
Yeah, because we saw like Cold Harbor and like the Weeping Prison, and that was really the big prison. But you didn't see anything like what they are coming, which most people have just dubbed Australia. Because one, I don't remember the name, and two, it's basically Australia.
I know it started with an A, like Amoros, I think it was, something like that. But
Something like that.
But, I mean, going back to the landscape, they're showing us, again, I'm honestly going to say, while we're not getting, like, a lot of, like, content-heavy stuff with this chapter, this is probably the most diverse, like, biome chapter we've ever had. Everything else is kind of themed. Somerset is all, pretty and glowy. Vardenfell is a big volcano with a bunch of mushrooms and stuff. Elsewhere is all jungle and desert kind of thing. They've all been kind of themed. But this, I mean, the ghost ship. I can't remember what the area is called, but I'm like, okay, I'm spending all my time there.
I, I think this is going to be really neat because, one, you get to mix the biomes, and yet they still have they want you, and they said this in the preview today, they want you to not think of it as different Bretons, but it's Bretons. This is their resort. This is where all the nobles go, when they want to just take a vacation. So they kept that medieval architecture, but they also spiced it up a bit. Like, if you look at the stuff in High Rock in the game now and the stuff from the reveal, it's very similar, but it's a little more elevated. It's clearly meant for nobility.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're talking about how like even the lower class like housing looks fancy. Like it's not run down, it's not anything like that. It's very elevated. So I really like that. It looks like well they also said open meadows with like sunflowers,
Yeah.
which it just looks gorgeous. We have this vibrant palette of like dark colors and light colors that they're all kind of I'm excited because it's actually going to feel like when you go to a different area of the landmass, you actually feel like you're going to a different area.
Right. And
No.
I think what makes the Bretons so interesting, to go off what you said earlier about the differences between the nobility's castles and then like the working man's houses, is the Bretons as a society, they're also one of the only societies who have been through absolute hell to still not hold that against anyone and still treat people pretty equally in their feudal society. Like for example, Altmer, they have to do what they're born to do. They cannot rise in rank ever.
Right.
They have a set when they're born. They're given a set role, and they have to follow that their entire life. Bretons are different. If you're born a commoner, you have a chance to rise up into nobility. They have that chance, which is really nice. You can see it reflected in the architecture too. Maybe someone was born into like more of like a cabin, but it's still kind of nice. But you have the opportunity, and High Rock is also the place where you're going to see the most diverse racial population because the Bretons, it's really equal opportunity for everyone. And I know the Argonians kind of keep to themselves because of the crap they've gone through. So do the Khajiit, but the Bretons, they're just very open and welcoming. So if someone were trying to escape something, I would say go to High Rock because they have the most opportunity to build a life there.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of also reflected in the new companions we're getting because one of them is a Khajiit. She, Ember. She's very mischievous. She's voiced by I can't remember who they said, but she's from Arrow.
You
And
know, I
what?
forgot what her voice actor is the moment I heard who the other voice actor was.
I was gonna say as soon as I heard Laura Bailey, I'm like, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
what?
I mean,
I love
that's 100%
Serana.
fair though.
Yeah. I mean, we're Elder Scrolls fans at heart, and anyone who played Skyrim, if you hear Laura Bailey, it's freaking Serana.
I
Like,
mean,
and
it's the legend herself, Laura
right,
freaking Bailey.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like getting when they got Jennifer Hale to play with Lyris in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Their voice actor royalty.
I mean, we've talked about it on the show before. Like, they just, time after time after time, get these stellar, big name voice casters. And it's just so good. I want Tim Curry to be in here.
Well, I wasn't too interested actually in another Breton because I hate Bastion with a flaming passion. I take him on all my Black Sacraments and random Dark Brotherhood murder sprees because I'm trying to get to max hatred with the guy. I do not like him. But what I'm really excited about, and one of my friends actually, the guildmaster of my one of my PvP guilds, she was like, "This Khajiit is gonna be your best friend because apparently Ember don't mind some violence." Which is good
Yeah.
because I happen to go on a lot of murder sprees.
Yeah, I'm still trying to like learn how companions work because I just finally recently got Miri, and even though I walked into the Dark Brotherhood Sanctum and she immediately got mad at me, I'm like, I don't understand you yet.
Right. And I think like the thing for Venus and I is our gameplay is what 90%, 95% in Cyrodiil.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't even have a companion.
I
I
have a few
don't play.
companions, but I stopped doing them. One, They need to just make it one and done. Once you do the quest, you unlock it for all your characters because it is just a waste of time to keep going in there time after time. And I was only getting it when I was trying to level a new character, so it'd be a little easier. But
Mhm.
if I'm not leveling characters, like you and I do some fishing together, sometimes we'll go in for gear farms. But other than that, we're in zero. We don't get the banker, we don't get the merchant, we don't get companions. So some like if you're PvP or some of the stuff is really not going to affect you.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So we're gonna cover a couple more things, and that is it for us. So we're gonna talk about Tales of Tribute real quick because we finally got an
Gwent.
explanation on what it is. It's well, I don't know
I
how.
mean,
I
I
mean,
can. So I've played a lot of CCGs in my life. I'm a huge nerd. If nobody's figured this out yet,
no, no.
um, the Tales of Tribute, I have my feedback on it is, I think as a system, it is not a bad idea, right? You
Right.
have Gwent from The Witcher. You have Legends of Runeterra that came off of League of Legends. They're building something that can exist outside of the game, something that can be made into a mobile game, monetized. It's not a bad both gameplay and business decision.
Hmm.
However, looking at it and watching it go through, I can see where they're going and I like where they're going. However, it looks like Gwent, or it plays moment to moment like Gwent. It has the win conditions from L5R, and it's got the resource system from Legends of Runeterra. So to me, it doesn't feel original.
Right. And I said the same thing to you today, Venus, when we were watching the preview and texting back and forth. I said to you it was Gwent with an Elder Scrolls skin. I think it's a great addition. I don't think it's enough to sell an expansion on its own. I think it's just not strong enough. But it's so unoriginal, and like one thing, like I don't want to like harp on them too much, but the kind of vibe I was getting when they were introducing it was, oh my gosh, this is so cool, it's never been done before. And we just listed off three different games that do that.
I'll
Well,
say the biggest downfall of it's going to be its UI right now.
Hmm.
I don't know if you guys saw the after show of the stream, but the UI for the game is very cluttered and very non-intuitive. If they fix that, I think it could be a pretty good success.
Yeah, I
yeah.
think it'll be interesting. I probably won't spend a whole lot of time on it. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of people who have been asking for it, but the downside is there's going to be a whole bunch of people too who want nothing to do with it.
I have been wanting something like this for so long. I mean, probably ever since the beginning, just because, again, yeah, I played Witcher 3. Gwent was one of my. The idea that you have a game within a game that I can go collect different things to make my deck better. Now, I get it. That's not necessarily what this is, and for me, that's a little bit disappointing. I really thought it was going to be like shot for shot Gwent, and it's not. It's more complex than Gwent. So it's a little bit disappointing me, but you can go challenge NPCs. You can go after. You can improve your strategy and stuff, and I understand. The thing about Gwent is, while yes, it was eventually made into its own standalone thing, and they expanded on it and perfected it. Originally, it wasn't meant to be player versus player. They had to they had to keep in mind the fact that, okay, this is an MMO. We have to keep it balanced. We have to figure out how it's going to be fair for everybody, and not like, oh, this person spent daddy's credit card and just got all the good cards and are just going through Tamriel, just beating player after player after player, and nobody's having fun.
I
I
just
get
really
it.
hope
Yep.
they don't add any of these cards to the Crown Store.
I would imagine if they do, it'll be in crates.
Yeah, see that makes
But
sense.
here's the thing, I don't actually mind that because the way the game is played, both of your decks are shuffled together.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Which means if let's say you, Marcus, you go and buy, or you don't buy anything, and I go to the Crown Store and I buy a ton of these cards through the Crown crates by whipping out my credit card. You still gain that benefit if we play against each other because our decks get shuffled together.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah, I think that will make it a bit more fair. If only they balance classes the way they do this card game.
well, and I I like the idea of having something to collect. So yeah, being able to, buy exclusive cards to add to my collection. Going around being able to earn my cards throughout Tamriel and looking at my collections list and go, okay, which card don't I have yet? Even I think that's the cool thing too. Is even if you're not interested in actually playing the game, even though you still kind of have to get cards, but it's also good for collectors who just want the high of having that collection filled. So it serves a dual purpose.
For the collectors, was antiquities not enough, or because
Yeah.
that's the whole thing about antiquities, right?
I will say that's another thing, and we'll talk about it in the housing episode that we desperately need is we need a homestead 2.0. We need more I remember talking about this on an old episode that I did where my wife plays so on occasion, and you know what she really wants in her house? A fishing hole. And there's ways to balance that where it's not where people can just overfish and flood the market. You have, you can only fish a certain amount of times per day, or whatever. There's a cooldown on it. But then, you sell that fishing hole for 5,000 crowns, whatever you want. You're making money. You're making everybody happy, and everybody wins. So that was another thing that I was maybe kind of hoping would come out of this was, are we going to get something a little bit more for housing? And again, it's just more furnishings, which is fine. And, another house,
Right.
which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I want more village homes. I am so in love with Forge Master Falls. I don't. It's gonna take a lot to get me away from Forge Master Falls at this point. Now that I finally got my claws on it again, like the way I've decked it out, it's got its own tavern. It's got its own crafting area immediately right there. The Eleanor greenhouse sits right there between the docks and acts as my merchant area and banker. Up in the bigger house up on the hill, it's basically my library and a little spot to the side for my bedroom because who cares? But so it's great, and that's another thing that I'm hoping, arrives soon. This is kind of almost our half and half because we talked about in light of this being the 8th anniversary of ESO, wanting to kind of do an anniversary special, which obviously we didn't get to this week, and talking about what more does this game need. And honestly, the conversation kind of fits very well in this space. Because obviously we didn't get a whole lot for High Isle. We got this. I'm not unhappy with what we're getting at all. I'm not. I will pay.
Right.
I will pay for it absolutely.
All right, I pre-ordered it months ago, and I'm excited for what it's gonna have in store. Do I think that they could have done more and that they should have? Yes, I do. But I'm still gonna play it, and I'm still gonna enjoy it because, I am a Gwent person. Truthfully, I never played Gwent outside of The Witcher 3.
Right.
But
Did I.
and I didn't play it a whole lot in The Witcher 3 because my main focus in The Witcher 3 was killing monsters because I was a freaking Witcher.
Yeah.
As far as like the housing's concerned, I think they're slowly taking steps in the right directions, making more interactables that you can use inside of your house, allowing you to set waypoint paths for the NPCs. Specifically to your fishing thing, all they have to do is make it into an interactable emote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, you don't have to actually pull a fish out of it that sits in your inventory, but the idea of being able to sit in your house and fish with friends. And let's be honest here, this game has a pretty active RP community.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
In case you missed our last episode where we made fun of RPers.
Yeah. I mean,
But they were the
maybe
rift
so.
in they were the rift in RPers, to be clear.
I mean, to
yeah.
be maybe so, maybe not. The point is that there are a lot of them, and Zos could not only appease them but make a lot of money off of it too.
Yeah.
They could do and they could do the same thing with PvP if they chose to.
I want to give Zos my money. I really do. Like it's not no, you're not taking advantage of me. Take my money, but give me something I really want. And that's the thing is I'm really hoping that obviously we have no right to be entitled to anything. Video games could, don't even need to exist. They are a luxury. But what I'm hoping for is that they take all the time they need, maybe let's say they also have to do next year another chapter that's not quite as big. Also, the fact that we are exploring an area that's never been explored in Elder Scrolls games at all ever. That's another bonus to this. Is we're getting that.
Right.
But I do want to see another really cool thing on the horizon, and something we had talked about last year was the fact that when Skyrim was being, not last year as in Blackwood, but last year is in with what's Greymore going to be. So I guess a couple years ago at this point, but what's Greymore going to be. We were really hoping to see like the College of Winterhold and spell weaving, and trust me, I know that's a huge, the tall order. That's high heaven balancing issues. But they have talked about it, if I remember correctly, in the past, that is something they eventually want to do. So that's something I'm really hoping that we start seeing around the corner is the next big thing. A class, a skill line, spell weaving, something big like that, something that improves combat. So, like, you know what? Guys, take your time, do what you need to do, get the game up and running to a better par. But hopefully we're seeing something, more grandiose next year. Again, not on the level of entitlement, just as a hoping for.
Now, a reminder, guys, they are coming out with two-person mounts. Your companion or a friend or group member can ride them, which, Venus, if they had two-person mounts, that would have helped us out a lot last week.
Well, okay. Fun fact. So I have a DC guild that I made in the game called the Police, because we're the boys in blue, right? Blue faction, yeah.
Oh no!
Enjoy my dad humor.
Wee woo, wee woo.
However,
That's exactly what's in the guild.
the message of the day is wee woo. Excuse me, sir. Do you know why I pulled you over? And we will do that in tells to friends that we kill in Cyrodiil and other factions. We will wee woo them as we all run up. I can't wait for two-person mounts just so we can have car chases.
Yes.
Oh my god, that's great.
You and Odie will have such a great time with that.
We will.
I like how I hear Lainy going, yeah, we made fun of the RPers, and immediately, oh, we're the police in Cyrodiil.
Damn straight.
I have a pass. Everyone has a pass.
I mean, I talked about the Skooma bandits and all the meth we sold, so not real meth people, just allegedly. Venus, if you missed it, methgalin, the provisioning item in the game. We had I had this one guy. He's like, I'm gonna go sell it as meth. He would go up to people and go, hey, you want some meth? And we were getting bank off this stuff. We were getting so much gold, and I'm like, how are you doing this?
Because
People just want meth.
because it's an MMO, and when you make your own content as a player, you tend to have a lot of fun with it.
Yes, and we did. No, it was I was like the bouncer. I was the big bad tank. So, not much has changed. So we are running a little low on time. But I did want to at the very end here kind of cover a little bit. Not like word for word, set for set going through these. I just wanted to, especially you, Venus, just talk about a little bit of your impression on what the new sets are, because I'm going through them, and as a tank, I'm not entirely impressed with what I'm seeing, but maybe I'm missing something.
You have plenty of tank fit.
Yeah. Let me pull those back up here real quick so I can look at them. I will say this: some of these, okay. Disclaimer: these are all WIP. They're all work in progress.
Yes, exactly.
They haven't even hit PTS patch notes. They can and likely will change. So we'll put that out there to begin with.
Allegedly.
But there are some of these pieces of gear that are, for lack of a better term, pretty friggin' nutty.
I mean, okay, Pearlescent looks interesting. I don't know if I'd run it, but it looks really interesting. I think it's also more for trials because it involves, like, the bigger your people, your group pool, the better this set works. And actually, I might as well just say what it does. So, sorry, I'm actually...
I'm gonna guess it drops in that new trial.
Yes, yes, it does. So
More than likely, yeah. I mean, the 174 to all of 11 group members based on a number of people alive. Like, yes, I think that that is a gear set that's going to be more trials based, especially given the additional bonuses such as minor aegis and increasing your damage resistance from non-player enemies up to 66% for everybody as well.
who is
Mm-hmm.
dead?
However, it is an unnamed bonus, which means specifically it can be stacked with other bonuses that are unnamed or named.
That is a
So
good
this can
point.
stack with major brutality, which means what I would predict to see is you will see one person in a Cyrodiil 12-man ball group
Mm-hmm.
running this set. And then you'll have another person running Rallying Cry. And then you'll have another person running the assault set, where when you use an assault ability, it increases everybody's weapon damage.
Yeah,
I think it's a good set.
the
I
set
like it.
the set specifically says it adds, max health, minor aegis, healing taken. The perfected is more health. Increases your weapon and spell damage by 174 for you and up to 11 other group members based on the number of group members that are alive. The opposite is increases your damage resistances from non-player enemies, though.
Correct.
So,
Like,
my
that would
Even
be
with that
useless.
non-player,
Go ahead.
even with that non-player bonus, I could still see it being used in zero on one person.
Yeah, so what the way the set is going to function, or at least from what I've been able to gather based on the embargo dropping and talking with people who had access to that content, is that 174 damage scales down linearly based on how many people are alive. So it's not like 174 per person that is alive, because that would be absolutely ridiculous, right?
right,
And the same applies to the 66% damage reduction. But the key is that it is an unnamed bonus,
right.
and that's where it gains its power, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are the rest of these?
The pillager set looks pretty interesting. I would expect that to be an almost mandatory in most group content, not just Cyrodiil. For those unaware, the 5-set bonus is casting an ultimate ability while in combat, grants 28% of the cost of that ultimate to you and up to 11 group members within 12 meters.
How did I not see this?
It's right underneath the pearlescent set.
This is a tank set.
It
I
is.
think
It
you were
is.
blinded by pearlescent.
It is a
It
tank
is
and a
very
healer.
much. It is very much a tank set, and the 25-second cooldown. We're talking about an ultimate here. Even with, if you're running it with shocks and potentates, it's still going to take you 25 seconds to get your ultimate up.
Well, because, I was talking to you, and, oh god, this is going to be a bitch to grind for, but, because trial sets usually are. Like, I'm looking at automated defense, and Halls of Fabrication is not a fun trial to run, even on normal. So, this actually would be great, because I was talking about how I kind of want to, like, see about doing an ult-themed tank where you have Nazare, and two other sets that interact with ult. So when you're popping your ult, you have 3 sets that are all proccing their ability at once that are hopefully going to be long-term effects. So it's like, oh, I'm proccing this, I have Nazare, I have my Colossus, so now everybody just got a huge ult boost, and now it has major vulnerability on the boss and everything around it for 25 seconds. Oh my god. Now, you do have to run this as tools and jewels, meaning your jewelry and your weapons, because it's a light set, or I guess if you ran like your monster set as a heavy, however you want to do it, sure. But that just means you can't do like powerful assault because it's a medium, unless you're comfortable running a medium set as a tank.
You could. You could still, to an extent. Remember, this is when you cast an ultimate. If you back bar this set or front bar it, it means your other bar can have a 5-set bonus that you need as well.
That's true. Oh,
it's not an always-on effect. Once it's used, you have to wait to use it again.
And it has healing done. You get minor aegis, and you get Max Magica. The perfected gives you Magica recovery, but yeah, casting ultimate ability. Oh my god, this is nuts.
It really is.
Oh my god! I hope this doesn't get changed too much, if at all, or make it better. I don't know how you do it. Just make it better.
Well, we'll see once the PTS goes live and people have a chance to test it. We'll see what happens. Now, mind you, ZOS is pretty notorious for not taking balance change requests from the community on their PTS. They're mostly looking for the community to bug test, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh,
Uh,
like with
but,
Vamp?
but we'll see. But yeah, with a lot of things like dark convergence. But
Oh,
we'll see where this lands. But another set that I find very interesting, and I think will end up being, and again, my experience isn't in PVE, but I think this set will honestly end up being a new mandatory set for characters like Magic and Nightblades who are looking to do PVE, is the Sistray set. Which, if you're not aware, the 5 set bonus says when you bash an enemy, you place Sistray's Scowl on them for 15 seconds. When hit by a light attack, the target with Sistray's Scowl takes, now the set is green, so take this in account, 2005 frost damage every second for the remainder of the Sistray's Scowl debuff.
so
Right.
my question, because I noticed it's also a health and stamina set. Why do you say mag blades?
Well, I say mag blades because they typically focus more on damage over time when it comes to PvE stuff, although it could very easily be stuck on a DPS warden.
Right,
That and damage over time tends to be king in PvE, specifically for parsing.
right. And stam blades really aren't. A, they're not group. Stam blade is not really a group class, so it makes sense why it would fit on mag blade. You would just have a
Yeah,
little extra stamina on the mag blade.
yeah, a little bit. Another,
Steadfast metal's interesting. While you have a food buff active, reduce the
yeah.
cost of your core combat abilities by 25%.
So to clarify that, core combat abilities are your 5 skills on each bar. Does not include your ultimate,
Oh
Yeah.
my!
but
And
it is an interesting concept to as a sustained set.
um,
Mm-hmm.
so you know how we were talking about werewolves earlier?
Yes, it would be very good
Because
for a werewolf.
this is a stamina set, so it's stamina recovery and max stamina twice. So, yeah, I could
Can you
see.
imagine a werewolf running that though? Like even if it wasn't even like the God, I don't know. What do you think that would be considered a proc set?
Yes, more than likely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's oh,
Damn it.
oof.
Well, actually, it may not be since it's not a proc condition. It is a potent. Let me put it this way: um, Seducers works inside of Ravenwatch. Therefore, this should also work if we're talking
Yeah.
logic.
Well, that's kind of what I was asking because it didn't really seem like a proc, but you know sometimes stuff that doesn't seem like it's a proc somehow doesn't work in no proc.
Oh,
But some of these mythics are pretty cool. The Oaken Soul Ring is the one we were talking about
I was
earlier.
just about to say that.
Yeah, that's the 1 bar build. And for those listening who haven't seen this thing, its 1 set bonus is while equipped, you're unable to swap between your primary and backup sets. However, you gain 300 weapon and spell damage, 3,800 armor, 300 health recovery, 300 mag recovery, 300 stamina recovery, and then 2,658 max mag health and stamina.
Damn.
I think my biggest question I have for the mythic is the Moira's Whispers. It's that light shoulder. Um, you can
Yes.
get the crit chance, 10% increase, inspiration, alliance rank, and alliance skill and monster kill experience based on your Books of Shoulders library you've collected. What I want to know
Is how many are
is
there?
no, it's does it apply to your Cyrodiil ranking or just your actual alliance rank?
So it says alliance rank and alliance skill. If we go off the logic they used for the alliance torts that they introduced into the game, the answer is no. It won't
Right,
affect your leaderboard.
right. So that's what I was wondering, because in the case that it did, it would basically be mandatory if you were trying to imp.
I will also say with the Oaken Soul Ring, it comes with a multi-effect enchantment, which gives you even more recovery and infused. It's
True.
infused. This thing is
True.
ridiculous.
Mhm.
I will say this: I think out of the ones that we've spoken about so far, Mora's Whispers is the one that worries me. And I say that because once you've collected 2 of Shalador's library books, you have more crit chance than something like Major Savagery will give you, since Major Savagery gives you 26, 29.
Yeah.
And then, so then the question I have is, how many books are there?
Oh, there's a lot. So that you're right. This set could.
You could essentially build a full, if we're talking PvP, you could build a full penetration weapon damage set, and then just pick up Moira's Whispers and gives you all of that crit. And this also applies in PvE. It means you can build full damage sets without, Mother Sorrow or other crit based sets like that, and just, ship it off to a one piece.
Right. You're right. That looks like it'll be very broken, so it'll fit in proc campaigns.
Yes,
Damn.
yes, it will.
Well,
But it also fit very well in trials. If you can seriously, if you can get 50-60% crit just by wearing one piece of armor, the amount of damage you can do is going to skyrocket.
I think it'll be great in solo builds as well.
I'd agree.
well, there are more sets, but I think we pretty much covered most of the interesting ones, and we're running a little low on time, so that's it for this episode of Legends Rise. Thank you all so much for joining us, and remember, if you want more stuff, you can check out our Discord. Once again, the links to those are on our Facebook and Twitter at Legends Rise ESO. Come be a part of the fun and make some new friends, and if you want more out of your experience, you can go to patreon.com/Legends Rise ESO and become a Legends Plus member. Again, I'm still working on all the social media tags and bits and bobs and all this stuff to go on the YouTube descriptions and the podcast descriptions and all this other stuff. I'm still working on it. There's a lot of details to work out. So thank you all for your patience. Music is Sons of Skyrim Epic Metal Remix, edited by me and performed by Brandon Strader, and you can find him on YouTube and Facebook at BESTRADER. That's Best Raider. Lainy, where can the fine folks find you at?
Well, as always, you can find me on ESO. I play on PC and A at a Dexy the One-Eyed, and there is a little dash between one and eyed.
Perfect. And Venus, where can people find you at?
So in game, I am at Venus Fallen ESO, and I'm also Venus Fallen on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
Perfect. And you can find me on Xbox under the gamer tag Everyone's Problem, capital O is a 0 with no E at the end. You can come play ESO with me in the North American server. Please, I need dungeon people. All right, guys. Anything else?
I think
No.
that'll be it.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to hit the outro music right now to let everybody know how our operation works. But mostly so I can abuse my cast towards the very end of the show and tell everybody to keep silent until I... dad joke, I don't know. Improv is hard. It's like 9 o'clock at night. All right.
Venus.
What?
You're telling Venus it's late.
That is true. He is 3 hours ahead. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here and let the poor guy sleep. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you in Tamriel.